This audiobook has the power to reveal the reality you've always sensed but never seen, and to show you the signs your third eye is opening. The fact that you pressed play isn't random. People don't stumble into this kind of knowledge unless something inside them has already begun to shift. Maybe it's that strange pressure in your forehead you can't explain. Maybe it's the sudden clarity in moments that used to feel chaotic. Maybe it's the sense that something is calling you, quietly but firmly, from a place you can't quite name. Whatever brought you here, it's already in motion. You are in the right place. Before we begin, do two simple things. First, tell me where you are listening from. Then type, "I am ready," in the comments to mark the life you are stepping into. Hold that intention, and let's begin. There is a silent, persistent vibration just beneath the surface of your everyday awareness. It is a frequency not of this world, yet it orchestrates it. It is a whisper in the wind that carries your name, a déjà vu that lingers a moment too long, a sudden knowing about a person or a situation that arrives not as a thought, but as a truth downloaded directly into your soul. You have felt it. In the quietest hours, when the world is asleep, and it is just you and the vast, starlit silence. You have felt a presence, an intelligence, a belonging to something so magnificent it defies the vocabulary of your daily life. You have, at times, dismissed it as imagination. You have rationalized it away. You have buried it under the noise of deadlines and responsibilities. But it has never left you. It has been waiting. This is the call. It is the first, faint stirring of a faculty within you that is beginning to rouse from a long slumber. We are speaking of the third eye, the seat of intuition, the visionary center, the gateway to the unseen dimensions of reality. For too long, this concept has been throttled in the esoteric, spoken of in hushed tones by mystics and sages, presented as something attainable only for the chosen few after decades of austere practice. This is perhaps the greatest misconception ever to be perpetuated about human potential. The truth, which the individual now holding this book in their hands is beginning to comprehend, is that the third eye is not a prize to be won. It is a birthright to be remembered. It is not opening for a select few. It is opening for all of humanity. And you, by the mere fact of your engagement with these words, are at the forefront of this quiet revolution. You are not here by accident. The fact that you have been drawn to this subject, that these words resonate with a deep, inexplicable familiarity, is not a coincidence. It is a sign. It is the most important sign. The universe, or your own higher self, is guiding you, placing the keys to your own awakening directly into your hands. This is not a theoretical exploration. This is a practical guide to recognizing the symphony of signals that your own consciousness is broadcasting to you. The signs are everywhere, etched into the fabric of your daily experiences. Most ignore them, attributing them to chance, fatigue, or an overactive imagination. But the individual who understands, the person who is ready to step into a larger, more magical version of their life, learns to listen. They learn to see the invisible. They understand that the world of form is merely the echo of a world of energy, and they are learning to tune into the source of that echo. What you are about to embark upon is a journey of remembrance. It is a homecoming to the true vastness of your being. Prepare to see your own life, and every seemingly ordinary moment within it, as the sacred, unfolding miracle that it truly is. Chapter 1. The Unseen Symphony. When the world starts speaking in whispers, you are walking through your day, and a song from a distant radio, a fragment of a conversation from a passing stranger, a billboard slogan glimpsed from the corner of your eye, they all seem to align. They form a sentence, a message, a direct answer to a question you held only in your heart. The world, which once felt random and chaotic, begins to feel curated, intentional, almost personally addressed to you. This, the individual discovers, is not a descent into paranoia. It is the first and most gentle sign that the third eye is beginning to perceive the interconnectedness of all things. It is the beginning of the understanding that there are no true coincidences, only synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that serve as guideposts on our path. The man or woman who operates solely from the 5 physical senses lives in a world of separation. A tree is just a tree. A stranger is just a stranger. A random event is just that random. But the individual whose intuitive sight is awakening begins to perceive the hidden threads that connect the tree to the air you breathe, the stranger to a lesson you need to learn, the random event to a pivot point in your destiny. The universe ceases to be a collection of disparate objects and starts to behave as a single, conscious, communicating entity. And it is communicating with you. This can feel overwhelming at first. The logical mind, the part of you that has been trained to navigate a world of solid objects and empirical data, will rebel. It will label this experience as seeing patterns where none exist. But you must understand this. The logical mind is a magnificent tool, but it is a terrible master. It is designed to navigate the world it can see, touch, and measure. It is not equipped to comprehend the vast, fluid, symbolic language of the soul. Now, let us speak directly to you. You have had this experience. You have had a day where the same number kept appearing on clocks, on license plates, on receipts. You have thought of a person you have not spoken to in years, only for them to call you moments later. You have been wrestling with a difficult decision, and then you opened a book at random, and your eyes fell upon a paragraph that contained the exact wisdom you needed. You felt a chill, a sense of awe, a feeling that you were being gently guided. In that moment, you touched the truth. You brushed against the fabric of a reality that is far more intelligent and responsive than you were led to believe. That feeling of awe, that chill that is neither hot nor cold, but something else entirely, that is your entire being, recognizing a truth that your mind has not yet caught up to. That is your third eye perceiving the unseen symphony. The great philosophers and mystics throughout history have spoken of this. Carl Jung called it synchronicity, and a causal connecting principle. He understood that events could be linked by meaning, rather than by cause and effect. The ancient Vedic seers spoke of the concept of dharma, a cosmic order and path that is unique to each soul. They taught that when one is aligned with their dharma, the universe conspires to support them. What we are discussing here is not a New Age fantasy. It is the rediscovery of an ancient, perennial wisdom that is now being validated by the leading edges of theoretical physics. The quantum field suggests a universe of profound interconnection, where the observer influences the observed. You are that observer, and as your sight sharpens, your influence and your perception of that influence grows exponentially. The individual who ignores these whispers does so at their own peril, not a peril of punishment, but a peril of missed opportunity. They continue to live a life of struggle, believing they are alone in a hostile or indifferent universe. They fail to see the helping hands, the divine winks, the open doors that are presented to them every single day. But the individual who heeds the call, who leans into these synchronicities with curiosity and gratitude, begins to walk a different kind of path. Life becomes less of a battle and more of a dance. Challenges still arise, of course, but they now appear as necessary steps in the choreography, designed to strengthen you and teach you, rather than as random acts of cruelty from a cold cosmos. You start to trust the flow. You develop a faith that is not blind, but is based on the accumulated evidence of 1,000 small miracles witnessed in your own life. You begin to understand that you are not a lonely island, but a vital, cherished note in an unseen symphony that is forever playing, if only you have the ears to hear it. This symphony is not a passive background score. It is an interactive, dynamic conversation. When you notice a synchronicity and acknowledge it with a feeling of gratitude, You are essentially saying, I am listening to the universe. This act of recognition amplifies the signal. The symphony becomes richer, more detailed, more personally tailored to your journey. It is as if the conductor, upon seeing your engagement, begins to feature your instrument more prominently in the grand composition. The individual may begin to ask questions of the universe and receive answers in the form of these aligned events. They may find that the book they need falls off the shelf in front of them, or that a stranger offers the exact piece of advice they were seeking. This is not magic, though it feels magical. It is the natural consequence of a conscious being aligning with the intelligent, responsive nature of reality itself. The third eye is the organ that allows for this alignment, for it sees the connections that the physical eyes are blind to. It translates the chaos of random events into the harmonious language of meaning and purpose. To develop this faculty, one must cultivate a state of relaxed awareness. It is not about straining to find signs, but about softening the gaze and allowing the patterns to reveal themselves. It is about trusting the faint nudges, the gentle pulls, the seemingly insignificant hunches. Each time you follow one of these whispers, and it leads you to a positive outcome, you are building a neural pathway of trust between your conscious mind and your intuitive soul. You are telling your entire being that this channel of communication is valid and welcome. The world is not what it seems. It is a living, breathing, conscious entity, and it is in constant communication with those who have the willingness to see and to hear. Your third eye is the key that unlocks this dialogue. The whispers are growing louder. The question is, are you ready to listen? The journey of the third eye is one of deepening perception, and it begins with this fundamental shift from seeing a world of objects to perceiving a universe of relationships. Every symbol that appears, every number that repeats, every chance encounter is a thread in the tapestry of your personal evolution. To ignore them is to live on the surface of life. We skim the headlines without ever reading the profound story beneath. But to engage with them is to become a co-author of your destiny, to participate consciously in the great unfolding of your soul's purpose. This is the first and most essential step. Without this recognition of the unseen symphony, the other signs may be misinterpreted or missed entirely. But with it, you have taken the first conscious step across the threshold from a life of happenstance to a life of holy design. The music is playing. It has always been playing. Your seat in the orchestra has been waiting for you. It is time to take your place and play your part with the full knowledge that every note you play is essential to the harmony of the whole. Chapter 2. The Inner Cinema. When your dreams become too vivid to ignore, there is a world you visit every night. For most of your life, it may have been a vague, nonsensical place, a jumble of the day's anxieties and forgotten memories. But now, something is changing. The images are becoming sharper, the colors are more vibrant, the stories are more coherent, and they carry the weight of meaning. You wake up with the feeling of having been somewhere, of having learned something profound, of having conversed with beings who are not of the waking world. You are not just having dreams anymore. You are taking journeys. This, the individual comes to realize, is the cinema of the soul, and its projector is the awakened third eye. In the state of sleep, the grasping, analytical mind, the gatekeeper of your ordinary reality, steps aside. The filters come down, and in this unfiltered state, the intuitive mind, the seat of your higher consciousness, has the stage. It communicates not in the linear language of words, but in the primal, universal language of symbol, metaphor, and emotion. A dream about flying is not about the physical mechanics of flight. It is a symbol of liberation, of rising above a situation, of gaining a higher perspective. A dream about being chased is not about a literal predator. It is a metaphor for an anxiety or a problem you are avoiding in your waking life. A dream about a house is almost never about a physical structure. It is a representation of your own psyche, with different rooms symbolizing different aspects of your mind and soul. Let us pause here and speak to you directly. Think of the most powerful dream you have had in the last few months. The one that stuck with you all day. The one that felt different. Perhaps you were in a beautiful, unfamiliar landscape that felt more like home than your own house. Perhaps you received a specific piece of information or a warning that later proved to be accurate. Perhaps you met a guide, an animal, a child, or a luminous being who offered you a gift or spoke words of profound comfort. That was not your brain simply processing information. That was a direct transmission from the deepest part of yourself. That was your third eye, open and receptive in the dream state, showing you a reality that is just as valid and in many ways more real than the one you inhabit during the day. To dismiss such an experience is to turn away a personal messenger from your own soul. The great traditions have always placed immense importance on the dream world. The ancient Egyptians had temples of dream incubation, where individuals would sleep in sacred spaces to receive healing and divine guidance. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia speak of the dream time, a sacred era of creation that exists concurrently with our waking world and can be accessed through ritual and dream. The Greek physician Galen credited dreams with leading him to major medical discoveries. What these cultures understood, and what the modern individual is now remembering, is that consciousness is not confined to the brain, and it certainly is not switched off during sleep. It simply changes channels. Your third eye is the receiver that allows you to perceive the broadcast from these other, richer channels. The individual who ignores these nocturnal voyages is closing their eyes to one of the most potent sources of guidance and self-knowledge available to them. They roll out of bed, shake off the remnants of the dream, and plunge back into the mundane, forgetting the maps they were just given. But the person who is awakening treats their dreams with the reverence of sacred texts. They keep a journal by their bed. The very act of writing down a dream upon waking does two things. It signals to your deeper mind that you value this communication, and it helps to anchor the often ephemeral dream memories into your waking consciousness. Over time, this practice strengthens the connection. The veil between the worlds becomes thinner. You may even find yourself achieving states of lucid dreaming, where you know you are dreaming and can consciously interact with the dream environment. This is a profound stage of third eye activation. It is a state of pure creativity, limitless exploration, and direct dialogue with the subconscious. Your dreams are not an escape from life. They are a deeper immersion into it. They are the proving ground of your soul. And your third eye is the lens through which you witness its unfoldment. As the third eye opens further, the nature of these dream experiences can evolve dramatically. They may become prophetic, offering glimpses of future events not as fixed destinies, but as the most probable outcomes of current energy trajectories. They may become healing, where you encounter beings of light who perform energetic surgery on your etheric body, addressing imbalances long before they manifest as physical disease. You may have dreams of meeting with a council of elders or a collective of other awakened beings, what some might call a school of dreams, where you receive teachings about the nature of reality, the history of consciousness, and your specific role in the great planetary shift that is underway. These are not fantasies for the individual whose inner sight is clear. These are experiences as real as any conversation held in the daylight. The dream world is a training ground for the development of psychic and intuitive faculties. It is where you learn to navigate without a physical body, to communicate telepathically, to perceive energy directly. These are skills that, once honed in the dream state, begin to bleed into your waking life. You may find your intuition sharpening, your ability to read people's energy becoming more acute, your sense of knowing becoming unshakable. This is because you are practicing in the limitless realm of the astral plane, and you are bringing the wisdom back with you. The resistance to this often comes from a place of fear. The logical mind is terrified of the irrational, the symbolic, the seemingly chaotic nature of dreams. It cannot control this realm, and so it seeks to dismiss it. But the soul knows that this is where true freedom lies. This is where you remember that you are not just a human being having occasional spiritual experiences, but a spiritual being having a profound human experience. The cinema of the night is where you go to watch the previews of your soul's potential, to review the rushes of your daily life, and to review your script for the scenes to come. To ignore this inner cinema is to live a life in black and white, while the full spectrum of color and meaning is available to you every time you close your eyes. So tonight, before you sleep, set an intention. Speak to your deeper mind. Ask for clarity, for healing, for guidance. Keep your journal close, and when you wake, lie still for a moment, hovering in the space between worlds, and grasp the threads of your nocturnal journey. Write them down without judgment. Over time, you will become fluent in the language of your own soul. You will see that your dreams are not separate from your life. They are the substrate from which your life is formed, and your third eye is the light that illuminates this hidden, magnificent world. The development of this dream awareness is a critical step in solidifying the gains of your awakening. It provides a private, unfiltered space for your consciousness to expand, without the constraints of physical laws and social conventions. It is in this inner cinema that you can truly experiment with the nature of reality, testing the limits of perception and the power of intention. Each vivid dream is a validation, a personal, experiential proof that there is more to you than meets the eye. It builds the confidence needed to trust the more subtle, intuitive hits you receive during the day. The dream world and the waking world are two sides of the same coin, and the third eye is the mint that stamps them both with the seal of your unique consciousness. To cultivate one is to enrich the other. This is not an optional part of the path. It is essential. For it is in the silent, dark theater of the night that we often receive our most important assignments for the day. Chapter 3. The knowing that comes from nowhere, and why your logic fights it. You are about to make a decision. You have gathered all the data, weighed the pros and cons, and your logical mind is pointing you firmly in one direction. But there is a feeling, a quiet, insistent knowing in the very center of your being that pulls you in the opposite direction. It offers no facts, no figures, no rational argument. It simply is. And when you go against it, when you follow the sensible path, things inevitably go awry. Later, you find yourself saying, "I knew it. I just knew I shouldn't have done that." This, the individual learns, is the voice of intuition. It is the silent knowing that bypasses the noisy machinery of the brain and speaks directly to the heart of who you are. It is the primary language of the open third eye. The human mind is a magnificent supercomputer, but it is limited by its programming. Its programming is based on your past experiences, your cultural conditioning, your fears, and your desires. It makes predictions based on what has already happened. Intuition, however, is not bound by time or past data. It taps into a field of infinite possibility and intelligence. It knows the outcome of a situation before the pieces have even fallen into place on the physical plane. It is your personal compass pointing toward your highest good, even when that path seems illogical or risky from your limited, earthbound perspective. The great challenge for the modern seeker is that we have been educated to distrust anything that cannot be measured, quantified, and proven. We have been taught that this gut feeling is irrational, unscientific, and unreliable. This is perhaps the most damaging lie we have been told about our own innate capabilities. Let us address you personally now. Recall a time you had this feeling. Perhaps it was about a person. You met someone who was charming, successful, said all the right things, and everyone adored them. But you felt a subtle unease, a slight tightening in your stomach, a faint internal no that you could not explain. You ignored it because it didn't make sense. Later, you discovered this person was not who they seemed. Your intuition knew. It perceived the energy behind the mask. Or perhaps it was about a business opportunity. On paper, it was perfect. The numbers added up. The plan was sound, but something felt off. A lack of enthusiasm, a sense of dread. You pushed through anyway, and the venture failed. Not because the plan was bad, but because the energy, the alignment, was not there. Your intuition was trying to save you months of toil and heartache. Every time you have a "I knew it" moment, you are receiving a lesson from your own higher self. You are being shown the incredible accuracy of this inner guidance system. Earl Nightingale, in his timeless wisdom, often spoke of the importance of ideas. He said that a great idea, a $1 million idea, could come to anyone, at any time. But he also noted that most people let these ideas slip away because they do not act on them. What is an intuitive hit, if not the greatest idea of all? It is an idea for the direction of your very life. The individual who succeeds, Nightingale argued, is the one who recognizes a good idea and has the courage to act upon it immediately. He was, in his own way, describing the process of trusting intuition. The open third eye is constantly receiving these ideas, these downloads of insight about your health, your relationships, your purpose. The logic mind will immediately present a list of reasons why it won't work. It is your job to thank the mind for its concern, and then to have the courage to take the first step in the direction your soul is pulling you. The person who consistently ignores this knowing is sentencing themselves to a life of what if. They live a life designed by logic and fear. A safe life, perhaps, but one that is often devoid of magic, spontaneity, and the profound satisfaction of being in perfect flow with the universe. They are like a sailor who has a sophisticated GPS system but chooses to ignore it, preferring instead to drift with the prevailing winds. But the individual who learns to trust this knowing, even in small things at first, begins to build a relationship with the most reliable guide they will ever have, their own soul. They start to make decisions that, while perplexing to others, lead to miraculous opportunities and profound peace. They understand that logic is a wonderful servant, but intuition is the queen, and the third eye is the throne upon which she sits. This inner knowing often manifests in the body before it reaches the conscious mind. This is why it is called a gut feeling. The body, in its innate wisdom, is a superb receptor of energetic information. It feels the vibrational mismatch before the mind can articulate it. A tightening in the gut, a constriction in the chest, a lightness in the heart, a tingling on the skin. These are all somatic translations of intuitive data. The individual who is awakening learns to become a connoisseur of their own bodily sensations. They understand that the body does not lie. It is a direct line to the truth of any situation. When the mind is clouded with doubt and analysis, the body can provide the clear, unambiguous answer. The third eye's perception is not limited to visual information. It is a holistic sense that encompasses feeling, knowing, and seeing all at once. It is the integration of these streams of data that produces the unshakable certainty of true intuition. To cultivate this faculty, one must create spaces of silence in their life. Intuition is a whisper, and it cannot be heard over the constant din of mental chatter, media input, and social noise. Meditation is not an esoteric practice for this purpose. It is practical training for quieting the mind so you can hear the voice of your soul. It is in the silence that the knowing arises, clear and undistorted. It is in the stillness that you can feel the subtle yes or no in your body. The individual who makes time for silence is not withdrawing from the world. They are tuning their most important instrument for navigating it. The battle between logic and intuition is the central drama of the awakening process. It is a battle for the helm of your life. Logic will always argue for safety, for the known, for the path that has been tread by others. Intuition will often call you toward the unknown, the unconventional, the path that is uniquely yours. The third eye, when fully trusted, allows you to see the landscape of the unknown so clearly that it ceases to be frightening. It allows you to perceive the opportunities, the helpers, and the divine timing that logic is blind to. The goal is not to destroy the logical mind, but to put it in its rightful place. Its job is to handle the details of the journey once the destination has been set by the soul. Your intuition, guided by your open third eye, chooses the destination. Your logic plans the route. When this partnership is honored, life ceases to be a struggle and becomes a graceful, co-creative dance with the universe. The knowing that comes from nowhere is, in fact, coming from everywhere. It is the voice of the unified field, the wisdom of the ages, the guidance of your higher self. It is the most personal and powerful connection you have to the divine. To ignore it is to ignore the very purpose of your awakening. To trust it is to step into the life you were always meant to live. This deep, intuitive knowing is the bedrock upon which a truly authentic life is built. Without it, we are merely echoes of our conditioning, repeating the patterns of our past and the expectations of our culture. With it, we become original creations, expressing the unique note of our soul in the grand symphony. The third eye's role is to cut through the fog of borrowed beliefs and societal shoulds, allowing the clear, pure light of your own truth to shine through. This process can be disruptive. It may lead you to question long-held convictions, to leave relationships or jobs that no longer resonate, to adopt lifestyles that seem strange to others. But this disruption is the sound of your authentic self breaking through the shell of the false self. The knowing that comes from nowhere is your true north. It is the homing signal of your soul, and no amount of logical argument against it can ever diminish its truth. Your journey is to learn to trust this signal above all else, for it is the only guide that will never lead you astray. Chapter 4. The Energy Shift. Why crowds exhaust you and nature heals you. You walk into a room and immediately feel the atmosphere. Before a word is spoken, you can sense the tension, the joy, the anxiety, or the peace. A conversation with one person leaves you feeling energized and inspired, while another, even if it was pleasant and superficial, leaves you feeling drained and depleted. A bustling shopping mall or a crowded airport can feel like a psychic assault, forcing you to retreat inward for protection. Meanwhile, a walk in an ancient forest or a stroll along a deserted beach feels like a homecoming, washing away the fatigue and restoring your very essence. This, the individual begins to understand, is not a sign of social anxiety or weakness. It is the definitive proof that you are an energetic being, and your awakening third eye is making you exquisitely sensitive to the vibrations around you. The human being is not just a physical body. It is a complex, multi-layered energy field. The ancient Hindus called these layers the koshas. The Chinese sages mapped it as the meridian system. Modern Kirlian photography can capture the luminous aura, the electromagnetic field, that surrounds every living thing. Your third eye is the organ that perceives this energy. It is your personal energetic radar. When it begins to open, its sensitivity is dialed up to a height you have not experienced before. You are no longer just hearing words. You are perceiving the intention behind them. You are no longer just seeing a person smile. You are feeling the emotional truth, or lack thereof, behind it. You are becoming a conscious participant in the unseen world of energy exchange. Now, let us speak to you, the one who has felt this deeply. You have left social gatherings early, making a polite excuse, because the sheer weight of the collective energy became unbearable. You have felt the emotional state of a friend or family member from across the room, even when they were putting on a brave face. You have perhaps even walked into a house or a building and felt the residue of past events, a lingering sadness, a palpable joy, a sense of peace, or a sense of dread. You are not imagining this. You are perceiving the energetic imprint of that space. This is a classic. and often misunderstood sign of a deepening psychic and intuitive sensitivity. Your third eye is allowed you to see with your entire being, not just your two physical eyes. The practical consequence of this newfound sensitivity is that you can no longer live your life without conscious attention to your energetic hygiene. The individual who is unaware of this dynamic goes through life being a passive sponge, absorbing the stress, anger, and anxiety of their environment, and then wondering why they feel so chronically tired, irritable, or unwell. They are constantly giving their power away, their personal energy field becoming muddied and chaotic. But the individual who is awakening must learn to become a conscious gatekeeper of their own energy. They learn to set boundaries, not just physically and verbally, but energetically. They learn techniques to shield their aura, to ground themselves to the earth, to cleanse their field of foreign or heavy energies. They become discerning about who they spend their time with, what environments they frequent, and what media they consume, because they now feel, viscerally, the impact these things have on their inner state. This is why nature becomes your sanctuary. The natural world, a forest, a mountain, an ocean, emits a coherent, harmonious, and powerful energy frequency. It does not have the chaotic, conflicting vibrations of a man-made, stress-filled environment. When you immerse yourself in nature, your own energy field begins to entrain to its stable, peaceful rhythm. It is a literal tune-up for your soul. The trees literally absorb your negative energy and transmute it. The earth grounds the static electricity of your stress. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is an energetic reality. The person with an opening third eye is drawn to nature like a magnet because their entire being recognizes it as a place of healing and recalibration. You are learning to manage your sensitivity, not as a curse, but as a superpower. It is the power to navigate the world with profound empathy and discernment, to protect your own light, and to choose only the energies that will help you grow. This energy sensitivity extends to objects and places as well. You may find yourself repelled by certain pieces of jewelry or antiques, sensing the history of their previous owners. You may feel a deep peace in an old church or a sacred site, resonating with the centuries of prayer and devotion held in its stones. You may have to rearrange the furniture in your home not for aesthetic reasons, but because you can feel the flow of energy, or qi, and you need to optimize it for your well-being. This is the practice of feng shui in its truest form, not a superstition, but a sophisticated understanding of environmental energy. The opened third eye allows you to perceive this directly, moving you from a life of arbitrary choice to a life of intentional, vibrational selection. You begin to curate your life as an artist curates a gallery, choosing only those energies that contribute to the masterpiece you are becoming. The exhaustion you feel in crowds is the exhaustion of your system working overtime to process the tsunami of conflicting emotional and mental energy it is absorbing. It is not a flaw. It is a signal. It is your system telling you that it is time to retreat, to cleanse, to recharge. Before entering a challenging environment, regularly washing your hands and splashing water on your face to clear external energy, and spending time with your feet on the bare earth are not mystical rituals. They are practical tools for the energetically sensitive individual. They are the equivalent of a mechanic cleaning their tools, or a surgeon scrubbing in. You are a worker in the fields of consciousness, and these practices keep your instruments clean and sharp. Your sensitivity is a gift because it forces you to live authentically. You can no longer tolerate inauthentic people or situations because the vibrational dissonance is physically painful. This guides you inevitably toward your true tribe, your true purpose, and your true self. The energy shift you are experiencing is not making you fragile. It is making you exquisitely real. And in a world full of noise and illusion, there is no greater power than the power of being real. This heightened energy awareness is the foundation for all deeper mystical work. It is the first step in learning to manipulate the subtle substance of reality itself. By learning to feel energy, you learn to direct it. By learning to protect your own field, you learn to project power and intention. The third eye is the command center for this entire operation. It assesses the energetic landscape, identifies threats and opportunities, and directs the flow of your personal power. The individual who masters their energy is no longer a victim of circumstance. They are a creator of their reality. They understand that their inner state dictates their outer experience. They do not seek to change the world by fighting against what they do not want. They change their world by embodying the frequency of what they do desire. This is the alchemical secret that has been passed down through the ages. And it all begins with the simple, yet profound, act of feeling the energy in a room and choosing to either transform it with your light or to walk away and protect your own. Your sensitivity is your strength. It is the antenna of your soul, and it is being fine-tuned to receive the highest frequencies of love, truth, and creativity. Honor it, protect it, and it will guide you to a life of unparalleled beauty and power. Chapter 5. The veil grows thin. When you sense the unseen presence, there are moments, often in the liminal spaces between waking and sleep, or in the profound quiet of an empty house, when you feel it. A presence, not a threatening one, but a palpable, intelligent energy that is distinct from your own. You are not alone. You might feel a gentle pressure in the air, a change in temperature, a soft whisper that has no source, or simply a deep and certain knowing that someone or something is with you. For many, this is the most frightening of the signs. The mind, trained to fear the unknown, immediately jumps to thoughts of ghosts or malevolent entities. But the individual who is awakening learns to perceive the nuance in this experience. This, they come to understand, is not a haunting. It is often a communication. The veil between the worlds is thinning, and your activated third eye is allowing you to perceive the benevolent forces that have always been guiding you. The universe is densely populated with consciousness in forms that our physical eyes are not built to see. This includes everything from the consciousness of nature, spirits and devas that tend to the plants and the elements, to the guiding spirits of our ancestors, to what some traditions would call angels, archangels, and spirit guides. These beings are not supernatural. They are entirely natural. They simply exist in a higher, more refined vibrational frequency than our physical reality. Think of your radio. You can turn the dial from one station to another. Each station is broadcasting, but you can only hear the one you are tuned into. Your normal waking consciousness is tuned to the FM station of physical reality. Your opening third eye is allowing you to perceive the AM station, the shortwave, and other frequencies you never knew existed. Let us speak to you with great care about this. If you have felt a comforting presence in a moment of despair, if you have suddenly smelled the fragrance of a loved one's perfume or cigar smoke years after they have passed, if you have felt a sudden download of courage or inspiration that felt like it came from outside of you, you have likely had an encounter. The fear you may feel is the fear of the ego, which is terrified of anything that challenges its position as the sole captain of your ship. But your soul is not afraid. Your soul recognizes its family. The key is to approach these experiences not with terror, but with respectful curiosity. You are not being invaded. You are being visited. You are not losing your mind. You are expanding your perception to include more of mind. Throughout history, every culture has had its names and its protocols for interacting with the unseen world. The shaman was the master of this, able to journey at will between the worlds to bring back healing and information. The great saints and mystics spoke of their angels and their divine visions. These were not hallucinations. They were individuals with a permanently activated third eye, living in a constant state of communion with the multidimensional universe. You are now stepping onto that same path. The initial encounters may be subtle, but as you acknowledge them and lose your fear, the communication can become clearer. You may receive guidance in meditation, through automatic writing, or in the dream state. The presence you feel is most often a guide, a teacher, a guardian whose sole purpose is to assist you on your journey. They cannot live your life for you, but they can whisper suggestions, open doors, and provide the comfort of knowing you are eternally supported. To sense them is a great privilege. It is a sign that you are ready to remember that you are a citizen of a much larger, more magical, and infinitely more loving cosmos than you were taught to believe. It is important to discern the quality of these encounters. The presence of a true guide, angel, or a benevolent ancestor will always feel peaceful, loving, and empowering. It may feel awe-inspiring, even overwhelming, but it will not feel dark, heavy, or frightening. Its communication will always be for your highest good and the highest good of all. It will never tell you to do something that harms yourself or others. It will never foster dependency or fear. If you ever encounter an energy that feels dark, oppressive, or manipulative, you have the absolute authority and power to command it to leave. You are a sovereign being, protected by the light of your own consciousness. Simply stating with authority, "You are not welcome in my space. I am filled with light, and only light may remain," is enough to clear any lower vibrational energy. Your intention, backed by the power of your open third eye, is a potent force for protection. As your comfort with the unseen grows, you may wish to actively engage with your guides. This is done through the simple and powerful act of invitation. In meditation, you can silently or aloud ask for their presence. You can ask for a sign of their nearness, for guidance on a specific issue, or simply for their comfort. Then, let go and be open. The answer may come as a sudden insight, a symbol in your dreams, a book falling off a shelf, or a conversation with a stranger. The methods are endless, limited only by the creativity of the universe. The key is to ask and then to trust. The relationship with the unseen world is a relationship of faith and co-creation. The thinning of the veil is a global phenomenon, not just a personal one. As the planet herself ascends in vibration, the barriers between dimensions are becoming more permeable. This is why so many people are reporting these experiences now. You are not alone in this. You are part of a collective awakening, a mass remembering of our true, multidimensional nature. The sense of an unseen presence is one of the most validating signs that this awakening is real. It is tangible evidence that we are not alone, that we are loved and guided, and that death is not an end, but a transition to another state of being. This knowledge has the power to dissolve the deepest fears of the human heart, the fear of death, the fear of abandonment, the fear of meaninglessness. When you know, from direct experience, that you are eternally connected to a vast family of loving consciousness, you are free to live your life with courage, passion, and purpose. The veil is not meant to be a solid wall. It is meant to be a semi-permeable membrane, allowing for the flow of love and wisdom from the higher realms into our world. Your opening third eye is your personal access point through this membrane. Do not fear the glimpses you are getting. Lean into them. Welcome the presence. Say hello. You are simply remembering how to communicate with your extended family, and that reunion is the most beautiful homecoming of all. This engagement with the unseen is the natural progression of a life lived with an open heart and an open mind. It is the culmination of trust in the intuitive process. To sense a presence is to have your deepest intuitions confirmed in the most personal way possible. It is the universe moving from sending you synchronicities to introducing you to the messengers themselves. This step requires a profound level of surrender and trust. It demands that you let go of the materialist paradigm entirely and accept that the cosmos is teeming with life and intelligence in forms you are only beginning to perceive. This acceptance does not make you less grounded. It makes you more so, for you are now grounded in the ultimate reality of a living, conscious universe, rather than the illusion of a dead, mechanical one. The presence you feel is the presence of love itself, in one of its many guises, reaching out to assure you that you are on the right path, that you are never alone, and that the journey is far more glorious than you have ever dared to imagine. Chapter 6. The Ache of Remembrance. A nostalgia for a home you cannot name. It comes upon you without warning, a profound and piercing sense of longing. It is a nostalgia for a place, a time, a state of being that you cannot identify. You see a certain configuration of stars, hear a piece of music from a forgotten era, or read a line of poetry, and your heart aches with a homesickness so deep it feels like a physical pain. You are yearning for a home you cannot name, for a belonging that this world, with all its relationships and accomplishments, never quite seems to satisfy. This, the individual discovers, is not a psychological flaw. It is the soul's memory stirring. It is the ache of your spirit remembering its true, divine origin, and your third eye is the faculty that is making you conscious of this eternal homesickness. The human being is an amphibious creature, designed to live in two worlds simultaneously, the world of form and the world of spirit. You are a citizen of Earth and a child of the cosmos. You have one foot in the temporal and one in the eternal. For most people, the connection to the spiritual world is subconscious, a faint background signal. But as the third eye opens, that signal is amplified. You become acutely aware of the part of you that is not of this earth. You remember the freedom, the limitless love, the profound peace of the state from which you came. And you feel the contrast with the density, the separation, the challenges of the earthly plane. This contrast creates the ache. It is the pain of the ego forced to live in a cage, even a gilded one, knowing instinctively that the sky is its true home. Now, let us speak to your heart, which has known this ache. You have stood in a crowd of friends and felt completely alone. You have achieved a goal you worked for years to accomplish, only to be met with a quiet, inner whisper of, "Is this all there is?" You look at the moon and feel a pull so strong it brings tears to your eyes, and you do not know why. This, dear listener, is the most beautiful and sacred of pains. It is the proof that you are not a biological accident. It is the evidence of your divine heritage. The people who feel no such longing, who are perfectly satisfied with the material rewards of the world, are simply those who are still in a deep sleep. Your ache is your awakening. It is the engine that drives you to seek, to question, to pray, to meditate, to do whatever it takes to reconnect with that forgotten home. The great poets and artists have always been scribes of this longing. The German poets called it Sehnsucht, an inconsolable yearning for a far-off country. C.S. Lewis described it as the inconsolable secret in every human heart, the desire for we know not what. He argued that if nothing in this world can satisfy this desire, then it is logical to conclude that we were made for another world. This ache is your compass. It is not pointing you to a physical location on a map. It is pointing you inward, toward the kingdom of heaven that is within you. It is guiding you to silence your mind, open your heart, and seek the presence of the divine that resides at the very core of your being. The third eye is the navigational instrument that allows you to follow this compass. When you close your physical eyes and turn your attention inward, you are using the third eye to look for home. The individual who tries to numb this ache with more possessions, more entertainment, more Rama, or more substances is only deepening their forgetfulness. They are building a louder, more distracting cage. But the individual who honors the ache, who sits with it in meditation and asks, "What are you trying to teach me? Where are you leading me?" begins the most important journey of their life. This sacred discontent is the very fuel for your spiritual evolution. It will not let you rest in complacency. It will push you to grow, to shed your limitations, to love more deeply, and to ultimately discover that the home you are longing for is not a place you go to, but a state of being you remember. And you remember it by seeing, with the clear, single eye of intuition, the divine spark that you have always been. This ache often manifests as a deep love for certain myths, legends, or star systems. You may feel an inexplicable connection to the story of Atlantis, to the Pleiades, to ancient Egypt, or to a culture that is not your own by birth. This is often not mere fantasy. It can be a soul memory, a faint recollection of a past life or a spiritual homeland. Your third eye, perceiving beyond time and space, is resonating with the frequency of that memory. Pay attention to what myths and symbols call to you. They are often clues to your soul's history and its purpose in this lifetime. The ache is also the source of all true creativity and compassion. The artist creates in an attempt to capture a fragment of the beauty they remember. The musician composes to echo the harmonies of the spheres. The healer serves to alleviate the suffering of other souls who are also feeling this homesickness, whether they are conscious of it or not. Every act of genuine love is an attempt to recreate the unconditional love of our spiritual home. The ache, therefore, is not something to be cured, but something to be channeled. It is the divine discontent that compels us to become co-creators with God, to build a world that more closely resembles the one we have left behind. This experience of samadhi, satori, or enlightenment is the homecoming. The ache vanishes because you have realized you were home all along. The journey from the ache to its resolution is the entire spiritual path. Every meditation, every prayer, every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness is a step on the journey home. Your third eye is your vehicle. It allows you to see through the illusion of separation and to perceive the underlying unity. The nostalgia you feel is not for a time or a place, but for a state of knowing, and that state is available to you right now, in this breath. The moment you choose to close your outer eyes and open the inner one, the home you cannot name is the peace that passeth all understanding, the love that has no opposite, the consciousness that is the source and substance of all that is. And it is closer to you than your own breath. This deep, soul-level yearning is the most profound motivation for any spiritual seeker. It is what separates a passing interest in metaphysics from a lifelong commitment to awakening. The ache is the voice of the soul itself, calling itself back to itself. It is a holy restlessness that will not allow you to settle for the mundane. It is the fire that forges the spiritual warrior. To make peace with this ache is to understand that a part of you will always be unsatisfied with the transient joys of the world, and that this is not a failure, but a success. It means your soul is alive and awake and demanding its birthright. The third eye is the means by which you satisfy this demand. It does not show you a home far away. It reveals the home that you are. It turns the ache from a pain of absence into the joy of presence. The longing is the beginning of the journey, and the third eye is the light that guides you every step of the way, until you finally realize that you are both the seeker and the sought, the traveler and the destination. Chapter 7. The physical unraveling, the headaches, the tingles, and the pressure you cannot explain. Your body is the instrument of your awakening, and like any fine instrument being tuned to a higher frequency, it must undergo an adjustment. This process is not always comfortable. You may experience periods of intense fatigue for no medical reason. You may have bouts of dizziness, a feeling of being ungrounded or spaced out. Most commonly, you may feel a persistent pressure, a tingling, a buzzing, or even a dull ache in the center of your forehead, right at the point between your eyebrows where the third eye is said to reside. The individual who is unprepared may panic, fearing a brain tumor or a neurological disorder. But the individual who understands recognizes these sensations for what they are, the physical symptoms of a spiritual upgrade. The third eye is not a metaphorical concept. It is associated with a physical, albeit subtle, structure in the brain, the pineal gland. Descartes called it the seat of the soul. This tiny, pinecone-shaped gland is located deep in the center of the brain and is responsible for regulating your sleep-wake cycles through the secretion of melatonin. But its functions are far more profound than modern science currently acknowledges. It is a neurochemical transducer, converting vibrational energy into neurochemical and hormonal signals. As your consciousness expands and you begin to process higher frequencies of energy and information, the pineal gland is being activated. It is literally being decalcified and awakened from its dormant state. This physiological process has physiological effects. The pressure or tingling in the forehead is the energy concentrating and swirling at that vortex. The fatigue is your body's need to integrate these new energies. The dizziness is your consciousness adjusting to a broader, less tethered perception of reality. Let us speak to you directly, for you may be experiencing this right now. You have been to the doctor. The tests have come back normal. Yet, you feel these strange sensations, these unexplained shifts in your energy and your body. It is crucial that you rule out any genuine medical issues. But when the doctor finds nothing, consider the spiritual explanation. Your body is not breaking down. It is evolving. It is rebuilding itself to be a more capable vessel for the light of your expanding consciousness. This is a period that requires great self-care. You need more pure water to help flush the toxins released as your energy channels clear. You need more rest to allow the integration to happen. You may find your dietary preferences changing as your body intuitively craves lighter, higher vibrational foods, more fruits and vegetables, and rejects the heavy, dense foods that lower your frequency. The ancient yogic traditions have mapped these processes in exquisite detail for thousands of years. They speak of the Kundalini energy, the coiled serpent power at the base of the spine that awakens and rises up through the energy centers, or chakras, purifying and activating each one. When this energy reaches the sixth chakra, the ajna, or third eye center, it produces precisely these symptoms: pressure in the forehead, visions, heightened intuition, and sometimes temporary physical discomfort. The yogis developed intricate practices of breathwork, pranayama, postures, asanas, and meditation to safely manage and guide this powerful evolutionary energy. You are experiencing a natural, if intense, process of spiritual puberty. The individual who resists it, who fears it, and tenses up, creates more blockages and more pain. But the individual who surrenders to it, who breathes into the sensations and trusts the intelligence of their own body, moves through the process with much greater ease and grace. Your body is your partner in this awakening. Listen to it. Honor it. It is performing a miracle, reshaping itself to accommodate the soul you are becoming. These physical symptoms can come in waves. There may be periods of intense activation, followed by periods of integration and relative calm. This is the body's way of pacing the process, of ensuring that the new neural and energetic pathways are built strong and stable. During an activation wave, the pressure in the forehead may intensify. You may experience visual phenomena like seeing phosphenes, swirling lights and colors behind closed eyelids. Your hearing may become more acute, or you may have temporary sensitivity to light and sound. These are all signs that the pineal gland and the associated brain structures are being fine-tuned. It is like the tuning of a radio. There is static and adjustment before the clear signal comes through. The fatigue that accompanies this is often a deep, bone-weary tiredness that sleep does not immediately alleviate. This is because much of the work is happening at a level deeper than the physical. While your body is at rest, your consciousness is actively rewiring itself, downloading new software, and integrating higher dimensional light codes. This is exhausting work. The need for extra sleep or deep rest is not a sign of laziness. It is a requirement for successful upgrade. Pushing through this fatigue with stimulants like caffeine is counterproductive. It is like forcing a computer to run a complex software update while also running multiple other programs. It risks a crash. The wise individual honors the need for rest. The changes in dietary preference are another fascinating aspect. The body, as it raises its vibration, can no longer comfortably process low-vibration foods. Heavily processed foods, artificial ingredients, and even animal products that carry the energy of fear and suffering can cause immediate feelings of sluggishness, brain fog, or physical discomfort. You may find yourself suddenly repulsed by foods you once loved and drawn to living, vibrant, sun-grown foods. This is the body's innate intelligence guiding you toward the fuel that will best support your new state of being. Trust these impulses. They are part of the guidance system of your awakening. The physical unraveling is, in truth, a physical rewiring. The old template of the body, which was designed for three-dimensional survival, is being unraveled thread by thread, and a new template, capable of holding a fifth-dimensional or even higher consciousness, is being woven in its place. The discomfort is the feeling of the old resisting the new. The pressure in the forehead is the feeling of a new organ of perception being born. The fatigue is the feeling of a new world being built within you. Do not fight the process. Surrender to it. Nurture your body with clean water, pure food, and deep rest. Be gentle with yourself. This is the hero's journey enacted within your very cells. And on the other side of this temporary discomfort is a vitality, a sensitivity, and a state of health that you may have never thought possible. Your body is not your enemy in this process. It is the sacred ground upon which your awakening is taking place. Treat it with the reverence it deserves, and it will carry you gracefully into the new world you are beginning to see with your own eyes, both inside and out. This physical component of awakening is often the most challenging to navigate because it is so concrete and unsettling. Yet, it is also the most validating. When you feel that pressure in your forehead, it is a tangible, undeniable sign that something real is happening. It is not just in your mind, it is in your body. This bridges the gap between the abstract concept of spiritual awakening and the lived, embodied experience of it. The third eye is not just a metaphor. It is a physiological reality that announces its activation through distinct physical signals. Paying attention to these signals, understanding their source, and responding with loving self-care is how you partner with the awakening process. This partnership transforms what could be a frightening medical mystery into a sacred, initiatory passage. You are not sick. You are being upgraded. You are not dying. You are being reborn. And every tingle, every ache, every wave of fatigue is a milestone on the path to becoming the luminous, fully activated being you were always meant to be. Chapter 8. The cracks in your reality. When time bends and logic falters, you glance at the clock, see a specific time, look away for what feels like a second, and look back to find that 15 minutes have vanished. Or conversely, a single moment can stretch out, containing an eternity of thought and sensation. You have a powerful, vivid memory of an event, only to find that others who were there remember it completely differently, or that physical evidence contradicts your recollection. The solid, dependable laws of time and space that you have built your life upon begin to feel fluid. These are not memory lapses or cognitive failures. These, the individual comes to see, are glorious cracks in the facade of consensus reality. They are moments when the true, malleable nature of the universe peeks through, and your opening third eye is what allows you to witness it. We are taught that time is a constant, linear arrow moving from past to present to future. We are taught that space is a fixed, three-dimensional container. These are useful constructs for navigating the physical world, but they are not the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth, as revealed by both mysticism and quantum physics, is that time and space are illusions of perception. All moments past, present, and future exist simultaneously in an eternal now. The universe is a hologram where every part contains the whole. Your normal consciousness is programmed to perceive this infinite reality in a linear, fragmented way, because that is what survival on the earthly plane requires. But the third eye sees from a higher dimension. It perceives reality from the perspective of the soul, which is not bound by time or space. When it activates, these glimpses of the true nature of things start to leak into your everyday awareness. Let us talk to you about the moment your reality glitched. When you experienced that time slip, that déjà vu, that jarring mismatch between your memory and the official story, what did you feel? Most likely, a sense of disorientation, followed by a frantic attempt by your logical mind to explain it away. But underneath that, if you are honest, there was a flicker of wonder, a hint of, what if? That flicker is your soul recognizing the truth. It is your innate knowing that the world is far more mysterious and magical than you have been led to believe. These cracks are not something to fear. They are invitations to question everything you have assumed about reality. They are doorways, and your curiosity is the key that can open them wider. The greatest minds have always played at the edges of this understanding. Einstein showed us that time is relative, that it speeds up or slows down depending on your velocity and gravitational field. The quantum double-slit experiment demonstrates that the act of observation changes the behavior of particles, suggesting that consciousness is fundamental to the creation of reality. The shamans, using the focused power of the third eye in ceremonial states, have long been able to time travel, to retrieve information from the past or the future, and to manifest changes in the physical world through intention alone. They understand that reality is a dream, and that with the right awareness, you can become the lucid dreamer of your own life. You are now being granted these same insights. The person who clings desperately to the old, solid reality will find these experiences frightening and will quickly dismiss them, but the person who is ready to fly will see them for what they are. The universe giving you a playful nudge, reminding you that you are not a prisoner in a clockwork universe, but a co-creator in a field of infinite possibility. Lean into the mystery. Question the nature of time. Play with the idea that you can influence the fabric of space around you. This is where your true power begins. These cracks often appear most frequently during periods of intense personal growth or emotional charge. When you are in a state of flow, completely absorbed in a creative act or a moment of deep love, time seems to vanish. This is because in these states, your consciousness is elevated, and you are touching the timeless. Conversely, in moments of trauma or extreme fear, time can seem to slow down to a crawl. This is your system going into hyper-awareness, gathering data from the eternal now in an attempt to ensure survival. These are extreme examples, but they point to the fundamental principle. Consciousness dictates the experience of time, not the other way around. Your awakening third eye is giving you voluntary access to this principle. You can learn, through meditation and intention, to step out of the linear stream of time and into the still point of the eternal present. In this space, healing of the past and inspiration for the future become possible. For you are operating at the level of cause, not effect. The phenomenon of conflicting memories, sometimes called the Mandela effect, is another fascinating crack. When you remember something one way and discover the physical record shows another, it can be deeply unsettling. The common explanation is that memory is fallible. While this is true, another possibility exists for the awakened individual, that you are momentarily perceiving a different timeline or a parallel reality. In the vast, branching multiverse, every possible outcome of every decision exists. Your consciousness is usually anchored to one specific timeline. But as your third eye opens, your awareness can occasionally flicker, catching glimpses of the reality where that event played out differently. This is not a sign of a faulty mind. It is a sign of an expanding one. You are beginning to perceive the multidimensional nature of your own existence. The practical application of this understanding is the art of manifestation. If time is not linear and the future is not fixed, then you are not a victim hurtling toward a predetermined destiny. You are an artist, and the future is a block of clay. Your thoughts, your beliefs, and your feelings in the present moment are the sculpting tools. They do not attract a pre-made future. They actively sculpt the reality that crystallizes from the infinite potential of the quantum field. The third eye is the visionary faculty that allows you to see the finished sculpture so clearly that your energy, your actions, and the universe itself conspire to bring it into form. When you understand that reality is malleable, you stop reacting to life and start creating it. The cracks in your reality are the most advanced teachings you will ever receive. They are the universe's way of showing you the source code. Do not try to patch them up. Peer through them. Explore them. Let them fill you with a sense of wonder and possibility. The solid world you thought you knew was a convenient illusion. The fluid, magical, responsive universe you are now perceiving is the real one. Your third eye is not breaking your reality. It is fixing your vision. You are finally beginning to see things as they truly are. This stage of awakening is where the mystical becomes practical. It is one thing to have a philosophical understanding that reality is an illusion. It is another to have direct, personal experiences that prove it. These cracks are your personal laboratory experiments in consciousness. Each time slip, each glitch, each conflicting memory is a data point confirming that your perception is evolving beyond the confines of the collective agreement. This can be a lonely place at first, as your experiences may not be validated by those around you who are still fully immersed in the consensus trance. But it is also a place of immense power. When you know, from experience, that the rules are not fixed, you are free to write your own. You are free to bend time, to shift probabilities, to manifest miracles. This is not a power to be used for trivial egoic gains, but for the profound purpose of aligning your life with the highest expression of your soul. The cracks are the opening credits for the greatest show you will ever witness. The show of your own conscious co-creation with the divine. And your third eye is your all-access backstage pass. Chapter 9. The Compassion Explosion. When another's pain becomes your own. A new story about suffering in a distant country now brings you to tears. You see a stranger crying on a park bench and feel their sorrow in your own heart. The pain of the world, which you were once able to keep at a distance, now washes over you in waves. Simultaneously, your capacity for forgiveness expands. Grudges you held for years suddenly seem petty and unimportant. You find yourself understanding the motivations of people who have hurt you, seeing their own pain and fear, and feeling a genuine desire for their healing. This is not a loss of boundaries or a descent into emotional weakness. This, the individual realizes, is the flowering of empathic connection. It is the direct experience of oneness, and your open third eye is the conduit through which this universal love is flowing. Empathy, in its superficial form, is the ability to understand another's feelings. But the empathy born of an awakened third eye is something else entirely. It is a transpersonal experience. It is the literal feeling of another's emotional and energetic state within your own being. This happens because the third eye, when fully online, perceives the fundamental truth that there is no separation. We are all individual waves on a single, vast ocean of consciousness. When one wave is troubled, the entire ocean is affected. You are simply the part of the ocean that has become conscious of the disturbance. This can be overwhelming at first. It can feel like you are being invaded by the world's suffering. But this experience is a critical part of your initiation. It is the universe burning away the illusion of your separateness and inviting you to take your place as a conscious, compassionate node in the web of life. Now, let us speak to your overflowing heart. You may have found yourself withdrawing from violent movies, distressing news cycles, or toxic gossip because the energetic impact is too painful. You may feel a compelling urge to help, to heal, to serve in some way, even in small, anonymous acts of kindness. This is your soul's calling, manifesting through your emotions. You are not meant to carry the weight of the world's sorrow on your shoulders. That would break you. You are meant to feel the connection, and then to become a source of light and healing within it. The love and compassion that are moving through you are not yours to generate. You are a channel for a universal, divine love that seeks to heal the world. Your open third eye makes you a clearer, more efficient channel. This explosion of compassion is the ultimate antidote to the fear and isolation that plague the modern world. The individual who is still asleep lives in a state of defensive separation, seeing others as competitors or threats. Their world is small and frightening, but the individual whose heart has been opened by the seeing eye lives in a world of profound connection. They understand that helping another is helping themselves, that healing another is healing a part of their own extended being. This is the consciousness that the great avatars like Jesus and Buddha came to embody and teach. They did not just preach love. They perceived the divine unity in all beings, and their actions were a natural expression of that perception. You are now moving into that same current of consciousness. Do not be afraid of the depth of your feeling. It is your greatest gift. Learn to manage it by grounding yourself, by sending love and light to those who are suffering rather than absorbing their pain, and by taking practical, bounded actions to make a difference. Your compassion is not a weakness. It is the most powerful force in the universe, and it is now awakening within you. This compassion is intelligent. It is not a sentimental pity that disempowers others. It is a clear-eyed, powerful recognition of the divine spark within every being, regardless of how obscured it may be by pain, fear, or ignorance. When you feel compassion for someone who has wronged you, you are not condoning their behavior. You are recognizing the wounded child within them that acted out from its own trauma. This does not necessarily mean you have to keep them in your life, but it allows you to release them with love, freeing yourself from the poison of resentment. This is how the awakened individual forgives, not as a moral obligation, but as a natural consequence of seeing the truth of another's being. The third eye allows you to see past the mask of the personality to the soul within. And every soul, without exception, is inherently good, inherently divine, and inherently worthy of love. The management of this empathic flow is a crucial skill. Without boundaries, the highly sensitive individual can become an emotional sponge, taking on the ailments of everyone they encounter and becoming a martyr for the cause of healing. This is not the purpose. The purpose is to be a clear vessel. Imagine yourself as a hollow bamboo. The pain of the world can flow through you, but it does not get stuck in you. You feel it. You acknowledge it. You transmute it with your light, and you let it pass through. Practices like regularly visualizing roots going from your feet deep into the earth can help you release energy that is not yours. Setting the intention that you are only available for the highest and most benevolent energies protects your field. You can be compassionate without being a dumping ground. In fact, you can only be truly effective in your compassion when you are centered in your own power and light. This explosion of compassion will inevitably change the direction of your life. You may feel called to a helping profession, to volunteer work, to activism, or simply to being a more present and loving friend and family member. Your life's purpose may suddenly snap into focus, and it will almost certainly involve service in some form. This is because the soul's deepest desire is to express love. As the third eye clears the blocks to this expression, love pours out of you as naturally as light pours from the sun. You become a source of warmth, healing, and inspiration for everyone you meet. You become a living prayer. The world does not need more people who are shut down and numb. It needs people who are willing to feel deeply, to love fiercely, and to act courageously from that place of connectedness. Your compassion explosion is your answer to that call. It is the universe waking up within you, using your eyes to see its own beauty and its own pain, and using your hands to heal itself. Do not shy away from this. Step into it. Let your heart break open, for it is only when the shell of the separate self cracks that the light of the true self can shine out, and that light is what heals the world. This stage represents the culmination of the heart's journey in the awakening process. The earlier signs were about perception and personal evolution. This sign is about the application of that evolution. It is where the journey turns outward, where the realized self naturally begins to serve the whole. The third eye's role here is to ensure that this compassion is wise and discerning. It allows you to see the true needs of a situation, not just the surface appearances. It helps you discern where your energy can be most effectively applied and where it would be wasted. This is compassion with wisdom, love with power. It is the most potent force for change on the planet. When you operate from this place, you are no longer just working for your own enlightenment. You are working for the enlightenment of all beings. You have become a node of conscious love in the planetary network, and your every thought, word, and action contributes to the healing and awakening of the entire human family. This is the ultimate purpose of the third eye's opening: to see the one in the many, and to love it without condition. Chapter 10. The Emergence of the Silent Knower, and the End of Your Old Life. A profound quiet is descending upon the center of your being. The frantic chatter of the mind, the endless commentary of the ego, the desperate seeking for answers outside of yourself, it is all beginning to settle. In its place, a new presence is emerging. It does not think. It knows. It does not react. It responds. It does not strive. It allows. This is the silent knower, the witness, the observer. It is the essential, you, the consciousness that was there before you had a name, before you had a story. Its emergence signals the final stage of the Initial Awakening. Your third eye is now not just a tool you use. It has become the very perspective from which you live. With this shift, your old life, the one built by the ego, must inevitably, and often dramatically, come to an end. The ego is the constellation of thoughts, beliefs, and identities that you mistake for yourself. It is the voice that says, I am my job, I am my possessions, I am my successes, I am my failures. It thrives on drama, separation, and the perpetual pursuit of more. The awakening of the third eye, and the subsequent emergence of the silent knower, poses a direct and fatal threat to the ego's reign. The knower sees the ego for what it is, a useful interface, but not the master. This realization triggers a period of immense upheaval. Relationships that were based on old, egoic patterns may fall away. A job that once provided identity may feel empty and meaningless. Habits and hobbies that used to bring pleasure may now seem like distractions. This is not a punishment. It is a divine demolition. The universe is clearing away the structures that are too small to contain the soul you are becoming. Let us speak to you, the one in the midst of this storm. You may feel like you are losing your mind, like you are losing everything you thought you were. You are, and it is the most blessed of losses. The life that is falling away was a cage, and you are being set free. The silent knower within you is not afraid of this dissolution. It watches it all with calm detachment, because it knows that what is being destroyed was never real to begin with. It knows that your true identity is beyond form, beyond circumstance, eternal and indestructible. Trust this presence. In any moment of panic or confusion, stop and feel for it. It is the stillness behind the noise. It is the space between your thoughts. It is the part of you that is simply aware. This is your anchor in the storm. This is your true self. This is the culmination of the journey we have outlined in these chapters. The synchronicities, the dreams, the intuition, the energy sensitivity, the connection to the unseen. They were all preparing you for this final, glorious shift in identity. The third eye's ultimate purpose is not to give you psychic powers, though that may be a side effect. Its ultimate purpose is to allow you to see through the illusion of the separate self and to realize your identity as the one universal consciousness that is experiencing itself through you. The man or woman who achieves this does not become weird or otherworldly. They become more fully, authentically human than ever before. They live in the world, but they are not of it. They perform their duties, but they are not attached to the outcomes. They love deeply, but they do not cling. They are guided by an inner compass that always points toward truth, love, and unity. Your journey of ignoring the signs is over. You are now the one who sees. You are the silent knower. You are home. From this new vantage point, life is experienced as a graceful flow. Challenges still arise, but they are met with a deep, unshakable peace. The need for external validation vanishes, for you are validated from within. The fear of death dissolves, for the knower knows itself to be deathless. Life becomes a play, a dance, a beautiful, sometimes tragic, but always perfect expression of the divine. You engage with it fully, but you never forget that you are the awareness in which the entire drama is unfolding. This is not the end of growth. It is the beginning of true growth. Now, growth is not about becoming something you are not, but about expressing more and more of what you truly are. It is a continuous unfolding of love, wisdom, and creativity. The third eye remains open, not as a seeker, but as a seer. It perceives the divine in the ordinary, the eternal in the temporal, the infinite in the finite. It is the lens through which God beholds God. The old life is gone, a new life has begun. It is a life of purpose, not because you have found your purpose, but because you have become a purposeful presence. It is a life of service, not as a burden, but as the natural overflow of a heart that is full to bursting. It is a life of joy, not dependent on external conditions, but arising from the simple, profound fact of being aware. You have remembered who you are. You are the silent knower. You are the witness of the world. You are the consciousness that gives everything its meaning and its name. And you have been here all along. This final chapter is not in conclusion, but a commencement. The awakening of the third eye and the emergence of the silent knower is the real beginning of your life. Everything before was a prelude, a preparation. Now, you are ready to live. The signs were the trail of breadcrumbs that led you out of the forest of forgetfulness. You have reached the clearing. The view is breathtaking. And the most astonishing realization of all is that the clearing, the forest, the breadcrumbs, and the one who followed them are all, and always have been, you. The journey is over. The journey has just begun. Go forth and see the world with your new eyes. The world you see will be the world you create, and it will be beautiful.